5 months ago, I packed my life into 3 suitcases and left Nigeria, the only home I had known for the past 27 years of my life, to start over in Germany. A new language, new culture, new life. In this video, I want to share exactly why I made this life-changing decision, the lessons I've learned in just a few short months, and if you've ever thought about making a similar big change in your life, stick around till the end of this video for a few tips and insights that might inspire you to take the leap too. The main reasons I decided to leave Nigeria for Berlin were my desire to travel the world and my drive for both personal and career growth. The first time I traveled to a different country was in March of 2021 to Nairobi and Mombasa in Kenya. Since I was a child, I've had dreams of traveling the world, and this first trip outside the shores of Nigeria just increased that desire. But between myself and this dream, there was one small problem. As a Nigerian passport holder, exploring different countries is simply not easy. Nigeria currently ranks 91 out of 106 places on the 2025 Henley Passport Index, showing how difficult visa-free travel is for those of us who have the Nigerian passport. Fortunately for me, I had been privileged to visit a few European countries, Slovakia, Germany, and the Netherlands in 2023. I found the different cultures, food, languages, and especially the freedom of movement within the EU quite appealing. And after this couple of short trips, it became obvious to me that Europe was the next place I would call home. Of course, the US, Canada, and UK were also options I had considered in the past, but ultimately I chose Europe because it offered me the best chance to easily visit many countries and cities in this part of the world. I've always loved taking on challenges. I believe the best way to keep growing is to push beyond my comfort zone. Moving to an English-speaking country would have made settling in a lot easier, but I wanted to experience the hurdles of learning a new language and integrating into a somewhat different culture. This same desire to push myself is why I decided to start making videos on YouTube in the first place. It's all about embracing discomfort and turning it into inspiration and personal growth. So, why Berlin? I previously worked remotely for a startup based in Munich and got a glimpse of Germany during that time. When I began searching for a new job, I focused mainly on Germany because of the tech landscape here and my personal positive experience with the German work culture. I previously had the opportunity to move to Germany a few years back. However, I set it as a goal to build my savings and investments for 2 years in Nigeria before eventually relocating. When it was finally time to do this, I started my search for a new job. Even though the tech job market was not the best at that time, and it probably still is not the best, I was privileged to get a new offer after a couple of interviews that allowed me make the next big leap in my career and move to Berlin. After signing my offer, the real work began. I quit my previous job, and this was quite tough because I had developed really good professional relationships with my colleagues. I had to sell my personal belongings, my car. I had to inform my family, friends of this impending move, and I had to start the visa application process. I found temporary accommodation in Berlin, which was a very important step because I'd heard that it's quite difficult to find apartments here in Berlin. And after a couple of months of living here, I can see that that is definitely true. So I was quite fortunate to find a temporary apartment at that time. Finding an accommodation was a very important step because I needed an address to use for the government registrations I needed to do and for opening a new bank account here in Deutschland or Germany. During the entire process, the concerns of the higher cost of living, learning German, adjusting to a new society, especially as a Black person, weighed in heavily on my mind. But I didn't allow these thoughts deter me. I reminded myself that every challenge is an opportunity to grow and push forward. After what was an unexpectedly long visa application and waiting process, I eventually got my visa in October of last year. I was initially meant to resume work in September, but the delays meant I had to move my resumption forward, and fortunately, my new company was quite understanding and helpful throughout the process. Finally, after about a week of getting my visa, I arrived in Berlin, and it was honestly quite surreal because this was going to be my new home for the foreseeable future. There was also a sense of fulfillment after setting a goal and achieving it despite the bumpy ride and roller coaster of emotions throughout the process. I've now been living in Berlin for the past 5 months, and I can say I'm quite settled in. I'm settled in at work. I have my residence permit. I have a long-term apartment. I've also started learning German, which so many people say is a difficult language to learn, but I am actually quite optimistic about learning because I see it as a challenge. And like I said, I love challenges and I love pushing myself. I will conclude this video with this quote. The greatest tragedy for a human being is not becoming what they could have been. I'm not sure who said this originally, but it is currently my biggest motivation in life. I'm not the most hardworking person. I'm not the most productive person, but I would always continue to be a dreamer and a goal chaser. When all is said and done, I want to look back and not regret what could have been if I had just pushed a little bit more. Now I'm back here working on becoming more consistent in making videos and sharing valuable lessons and insights. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.